All right, so we just did a little
Just
test
kidding.
on
Take two.
this was our read our lips test. What we're talking about is terribly interesting, and I hope you could read lips.
Yeah. Otherwise, you just missed everything we just said.
And I'm telling you, we just exposed 5 conspiracy theories.
God, probably
told
got
you-
sued for copyright.
And told you where the Ark of the Covenant is located.
Man, it's too bad we were on mute
I
that
know,
whole
I
time.
know. All right, what do you got?
So I have to, I feel like I've mentioned this before, but I'm going to again, because I just can't believe the nerve the general public has.
About what?
So you're a business owner.
Mhm.
I'm sure you have dealt with like the general public and customers and things like of that nature. Do you ever come across people that you were like, you know what? I don't want your business. I don't want to deal with you. Please leave my business. Because people want everything for free. 100%. They don't care what it is. They don't care what it takes to get it. They want you to get it. They want it for free. And I see this so often that on a regular basis, I'm like, I don't believe I am still taken aback by it. That I am still like the nerve of people sometimes that just, I don't care what it is you do. Do it for free for me. Just had to air that grievance.
All right, well, you can connect that with all relationships are like that. You have self-interested people that are wandering around trying to take advantage of other people. And what you're willing to do is the currency to have someone work with you. So if I knew that you were a certain way from the first minute that I met you, I can either decide whether or not I want someone who values the same things that I do. So if my time, like, okay, so let's just say you and I we're thinking of dating, right?
It's like a speed dating thing.
Yeah. And I don't like to talk at all, right? and you need someone who can talk to you and communicate well with you. When would you like to know that that is a thing?
Pretty soon.
Okay. So let's just say I started off and said, hey, I don't like to talk at all. So you're going to have to carry conversations and I'm going to give you 2-word answers. And you can either, yes, that's cool, or no, that's not cool. If I said that, then you can decide whether or not you want to proceed with the date, knowing that something that's important to you is not important to me whatsoever. Now, if you proceed, that's your fault, right? Because you invited something you know you're probably going to not like. But if you're like, oh, thanks for telling me that, let's just end this right now and move on and try to find somebody else. So instead of spending time with me where you know it's not going to work out because I don't talk, you can then freed to find somebody who is a better communicator. But if we know how to do this in relationships, but if we're like, hey, do you have any money? And if they're like, no, I don't have any money, then I can say, okay, well, my business needs money to stay in business. And we need to free this up right now so you can find somebody who likes to do work for free. And I can find someone who's willing to pay for my time. And let's know that in the first 5 seconds of the interaction. But dating and in business, we lure people in and we hide those things because we think there are objections that are going to lose you as a customer. But if you lose me at the table, right, you're afraid of telling me that you like to communicate, you're going to be disappointed down the freaking road 100% of the time. But it's trickery if you lure that person in on those, on those data points that you know existed, but you proceeded anyway. So relationships, we make that mistake. Business, we make that mistake, and it always goes south.
Are you an advocate for being very blunt?
Very blunt.
With customers?
Very, very blunt.
So there's no like tiptoe around to sound more professional. Don't assume anything.
No, lying is not professional. It is not. It is not. I mean, there's a tactful way of saying things. So when I say I'm blunt, I don't mean that I say things that are going to, make someone run just because of the way I said it. I'm blunt as in I say the first thing that's most important and I don't tiptoe around it. I say the thing. And regardless, it's going to happen anyway. So I'd rather it happen in the very beginning.
I struggle with being blunt sometimes.
Oh, no, because where in a world where you have passive, uncourageous, I'm not going to call you a coward, but you're uncourageous people.
Not offended.
You know what you need to have? A
What?
society that is considerate, right? And
Yeah.
honest and polite, because you're going to be vulnerable in your cowardice. I had to say it. I'm sorry. So they need
You're
to
not wrong.
they need to behave appropriately. So I'm going to
Mhm.
say both of you are at fault. Either the people that will willingly take advantage of you and give off all of the red flags, and
Mhm.
then you not standing up for them and putting them in their place, and at least allowing them to find somebody who else to take advantage
Yeah,
of.
because it's almost like it won't. It keeps it going, is what it does. It's like it's the fact that I can't be blunt and stern up front. It doesn't make anything, I guess, worse off. It just doesn't end it. It just
No, it
we're gonna
delays it.
keep doing
No,
this.
so if you took a bad thing, right?
Yeah.
Let's call it a density of 10, and you made it happen in 1 minute. And you took the density of 10 and spread it over 10 minutes.
Yeah.
Each one of those minutes only feels like a 1, but when you collect it back up, it was a 10. You just spread it out over a period of time that then deprived other people who are considered, who are polite, who respect your time and all that.
Mhm.
You deprived them of dealing with you because you were too busy dealing with the people who didn't respect. So it's just an acknowledgement of truth is what it is. Me being truthful and me acknowledging a truth. I'm trying to figure you out. You're trying to figure me out. And we're going to be truthful and honest with each other. We're not going to play games. We're trying to outmaneuver each other. Just be on. And that's the version of blunt that I subscribe to. I'm going to say it. And if you can handle it, cool. If you can't, you're not going to be able to handle it a year from now.
But there is something to be said for though about tact, because I have seen people that, like, I think you can say something in a blunt, matter of fact way and do it with so little emotion
Yes,
that it is just a matter of fact.
that's exactly right.
I've also seen people say something, and to me, and maybe it wasn't said to me, but I heard them say it to someone else, and I almost want to be like, I took that as aggressive. So I can't imagine how they took it.
Right.
Like, but all I said was blah, blah, blah. And that's true. All you said was that. Anybody else could have just said that, not faulting you for the words, but you absolutely came off as aggressive and rude. And so it's like finding that delicate balance of I am being blunt and stern and matter of fact, but not rude and aggressive.
You are welcoming in the worst though, because because I care about the data and details. I don't care how those data and details make me feel. You care about how something makes you feel, regardless of the data and details, right?
Mhm.
And you're almost caught off guard when the data and details were not how it made you feel. And that is a huge juxtaposition between those two things. If you're inviting in, if I can say, hey, I want you to do X, would you rather me just give you the X, or do you want to feel good about being given the X? You want to feel good.
I like to feel good.
Right.
Yeah.
And so you're welcoming people to give you things that are just there to make you feel good. And so if you want to be marketed to, right?
Yeah.
If you want to be won over and manipulated by emotional things, that's what you're welcoming. Again, that's great if you have a bunch of great people that are around you. You have people that are kind and polite and considerate and they're looking out for you, right? Then
Mhm.
they can handle that. But if you're made up of a secular world full of demons, right? You can't be vulnerable in a way that welcomes in people to come up and say, hey, you look really, really pretty today, right? Knowing that the sentence that the second sentence is not going to make you feel good. So I had to I had to dress it up a little bit. I had to make you feel good so that now if I said, hey, I've got this deal for you, would you sign on this line? And then I said it in a monotone way, and it's a signature on a line. Same thing. Hey, you look really pretty today. Why don't you sign on this line? Where that one's going to have a better in. But when you look at the details, I just said you didn't look pretty, right?
Mm-hmm.
They did.
Why
So they use emotional leverage to get you to do something, and it worked on you because what made you feel good is more important than me analyzing and say, okay, well, Kellen's buttered me up, and whoever, Jane and Kellen, you buttered me up and said, hey, you look pretty dapper today, Joe. And I'm like, yeah, I don't care. And then you both asked me to sign. And to me, both of you just asked me to sign on a line. I'm like, hey, these are two documents. You guys are both equal. Give me another
Hold up.
Yeah.
Kellen and Jane.
Yes.
Kellen comes to you and says, Joe, I've got a deal for you. I know you're a very smart, intelligent businessman. You know what you're doing. I really value your opinion because I know that you know what you're talking about. You're the best in the game.
Yes.
So sign this for me because it's going to be great. And someone else comes over and is like, Joe, sign this for me. You don't in any way feel differently about those two requests.
They are
in any way.
Two separate things. It's a data point, right?
It may not make you
but there's nothing
act differently, but you can't tell me you don't feel differently.
There is a feeling, but I am disconnected from that feeling. I could very well, if their data was better and they didn't give me a compliment, I very well might sign their paper because the paper is a separate thing from the compliment. I'm
saying paper's the same thing. Paper is the same thing, and what you do has the same outcome, which makes you feel better.
I would not sign the document because you gave me a compliment. There would be another question because now I've got two equal things in front of me, and I need to have an advantage in signing one of those things. And whoever gives me the advantage on the data is the person that's going to get me to sign, not the compliment at all. Compliments do not enter into my willingness to sign a document.
But have you ever been turned off by the way somebody said something?
Oh, yeah.
Like, have you ever been like, oh my, like if maybe you're giving your business to another company for something you need and you're almost like, it's not what you said, it's your attitude I don't like. Have you ever felt that?
Single data points, never.
You've never felt some kind of way because you don't like the way somebody said it?
I get a read on people, but none of my reads are ever single data point rejections or acceptances. There's more to it. So it might be a curiosity. I might be categorizing and trying to put somebody in a box, and they just gave me some data that says they might be in that box, but they're not in that box until they're in the box to me. And I would ask more leading questions. So let's just say doctors, lawyers, high professions, right? They are really smart, well-educated people, and they are the worst customers in the service industry because they know that they are smart enough that they should know this, and they don't know it. And so giving the ability to someone who they think is not as educated as they are is a really rough thing for their ego. So when I get in front of one of these high specializations of really smart people, they're in a box, but listen to the data points that I just collected. I've profiled them to a point where they're not a thing just because they're in that profile, but guess where my questions are going to lead? Like one of my first questions is, okay, well, releasing responsibility to someone that's lesser of you, right? It's going to be, do they have the ability to give control over without micromanaging or questioning or doubting or, they're rolling their eyes and saying, what's this stupid person? I could be doing this if I just knew how to do it. Like it's one, I have to make sure they're not one of those. If they're a person that's just curious because they have these biases in their head and they want to make sure that their biases aren't realized by this dumb, ill-educated person who's working on their computer or whatever, then that's fine. I appreciate that. If the other data collectors, I'll give you all the information you need, but all I need to overcome with you is whether or not I'm smart enough to do this job. So I'm going to give you enough data that says, yes, I'm absolutely smart enough to do this job. And now what you're going to do for me is if you can, once I'm satisfied that you can relinquish control to me, if you'll keep it relinquished to me and not sit over me and then double doubt and come back. And after I've already won you over on if I'm smart enough to do this question, if you can stay the hell away from me until I get things done. So that's the category. I probably have 50 different profiles of types of people that when they come in, I put them in that box and then qualify them to make sure they can stay there.
So if someone came up to you and they're like, yeah, I need your help with this. I need you to do this for me. But I can't imagine it being very difficult. It doesn't take a lot of time. So just do this. What do you say to them? Do you like, nope, I'm out? Are you
okay,
say,
so what's expected, the emotional response is that they hurled an insult, a backhanded insult that somehow that, I'm only necessary for one piece. So the instinct, if you're that flippant, if you're that brash person, you're gonna make a comment that's equal to that comment, and then you lose the game.
If it's so simple, why don't you do it? That's what I want.
Simple. Why don't you do it? Hey, do I sit in your desk and try to operate on someone or, do their briefs or whatever?
Yeah.
That's not winning them over in the category. You're overcoming things when you're dealing with people, especially difficult, type A's and, people who are better in different things than you. And so my strategy with those people is that every data point, when people say things, that's never, it is never what they say, right? There's a reason that they said those things. And my job is to conquer the reason they said it, not what they say. So I won't even respond to the flippant argument because it was just a mean thing. I will get to the root of, find the root of why they said it. Okay. So
I think that's why I feel certain ways. I think because I think if somebody says something with a certain tone, to me, it's like, it's not what you said, it's how you said it.
Yeah.
And I say that to say, clearly you're communicating something else and I'm not playing this game. Like,
right, yeah, that's a
is,
typical response. And that means that you have to only queue up people that are easy to deal with, and the easy to deal with people are already spoken for. And so that the real money and the real success and the real prosperity is managing difficult people who have a less competition for what it is that they do. Okay, so you don't go easy. Customers are not where the crosshairs should be on, right? Lowest, the lowest risk, but the lowest margin in easy to deal with customers. Hard customers, where, yeah, I mean, if everybody has their principles and says, if I came up to you and if I said you're ugly, would you do business with me?
No.
All right. If I said that, hey, I think you're really stupid, would you do business with me?
No.
Okay. So there's a set of principles where guess who I'll do business with? Anybody who will play by my rules and pay the bill at the end of the day. That's it. You don't have to like me. You don't have to respect me. You don't have to appreciate me. All you have to do is let me do my thing and pay my bill, and we are square. And so it lets me off the hook on emotional connections that somehow, if you want to throw a jab at me, I don't give two shits. I'm in control of the invoice, right?
Yeah.
Guess what I do when you're difficult? I make more money. So please be more difficult. If I show up at your office and you're inconsiderate and you make me sit in the waiting room, you just paid me to sit in the waiting room. I'm going to high five you. I'm not going to feel disrespected.
Thanks for that.
Exactly. I didn't have to do shit. And I got paid, hundreds of dollars an hour for sitting in a waiting room. You're awesome. So it is, if you want everybody to be this nice, kumbaya, respectable thing, you are going to freaking lose every time.
Oh, yeah.
Unless you can make a society that has all respectable, polite, considerate people, which we're not on that trajectory to make more of those people. Money's to be made on not getting offended and being smarter than your opposition and getting paid in the end. It's the goal.
So I'm going to be a little more blunt.
Be blunt my way. Be blunt.
I'm going to grow backbone.
Yeah, but don't let your emotions and jab right back at them and think that you did justice by countering whatever they said. You lose the game when you do that. You got to own them by not letting the emotional things affect you.
I'm just going to say, well, this is what it is. But what about this is what it is.
Mm-hmm.
Period.
Yeah. You'll see my way is better. It really is. I wish more people would be my way, but
WWJD.
I also hope that nobody does it, because I have an extreme advantage in the marketplace behaving the way I do. There's definitely downside and cost to being it. But if there were more of me out there, things would be really effective and I wouldn't be as good. It's almost like, you go through school and, everybody's smarter than you. They have this big advantage over you, right? And you kind of just stay the same. But then you watch everybody trail off and get dumber. Now, you didn't get any smarter. Your confidence isn't that you put up big numbers. You just watched everybody just sabotage themselves over the course of years. I just didn't sabotage myself, and I stayed exactly where I was at and followed my principle. And I was the North Star of success, where it wasn't great. I was not Michael Jordan of my class at all, right? I was more of the Spud Webb, right? Spud Webb was pretty damn good.
Spud Webb?
Yeah.
Who's that?
You don't know Spud Webb?
I don't think so.
So every once in a while, I think there's two in my lifetime where a very short in stature basketball player plays in the NBA, and they're really good. And Spud Webb, I want to see how tall Spud Webb. By NBA standards, he probably was not short or tall. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah.
If he probably wasn't 5'5". He was probably 6 foot.
Was there somebody in the 90s? I feel like I remember a famous 90s basketball player that was short.
He was 5'7"
Anthony Jerome, Spud Webb. Look at that little guy jumping by the tall guy.
Yes.
He was how tall? 5'7".
Played in the NBA. So every once in a while, you have a short stature person, and I'm using that collectively as a metaphor for someone who's not, as big and as good and as fast as everybody else. But if
Yeah.
you hang out long enough, right, everybody else sabotages and gets stupid.
That's kind of like I remember growing up as a kid thinking that I was maybe just subpar and that adults know everything and I'm just some dumb kid. Then you become an adult and you're like, oh my God, we're all the same. Like, we're not any better because we're adults and all these people
Okay,
aren't
so
smart like I thought they were.
Here's the deal. Survivor, you and I are on the show.
Okay.
We're going to strategize on how we win the show. Would you, when you look around at your competition, would you be sizing them up to see who could take you out?
Probably.
Okay. And if you were the best, right? You had all of the attributes that could outperform these people, would you try to outperform?
Yeah.
Okay. So you take on the challenges, take them head on, try to get them eliminated, play the social end of things to, get allyships and get gang ups and all that kind of stuff.
What's the alternative?
Under the radar, sit in the background, wait until the strong ones eliminate themselves, and then the meek will rule the world.
I am non-confrontational. So if it's possible to do that, I probably would. It would depend on the environment. Is that possible?
So you would play offense. I'm going to put you as an offensive player. You would try to strategize and outmaneuver and try to be the best manipulator and game player that there is, right? I would do two things. Be under the radar so that they don't even know my name. When they're doing the show, there's this guy, but they never talk about him. Doesn't do anything. He kind of sits in the shadows a little bit. And number two,
I wouldn't allow that.
And then number two, I would get really good at something that nobody else is good at. So whether it's starting fires, building shelters, desalinating water, whatever it is, I get super good at that. So they wouldn't notice me because I don't make myself the center of attention. And I'm indispensable because I know how to do something that keeps everybody alive. And I would keep adding to my repertoire of indispensable items. And so long that I was necessary and not noticed, right? I would wait until all of the power players, because I would size them up too. I'd know who was definitely, could conquer me in 2 seconds if I got on their radar. And I'd wait for them to eliminate themselves, wait until the herd has been thinned, and then I would make my move later in the game. That would be my overall strategy. I would win.
That would be impossible in the actual game, though.
No, it would not.
If it were a televised thing, you couldn't fly under the radar. They would draw attention to you.
No,
because only the big personalities make the TV show.
Right. And I would get, I'm already getting there. So I can't give you the hypothetical that would make them even pay attention to me other than my brilliance and beauty. It's
true.
Assured.
True.
But if I'm on the show already, and let's just say they're like, hey, that dude in the shadow, we can't let him be in
What's
the shadow.
Up with that guy?
I would say the most boring, uninteresting things. And so maybe they got footage of me, but they would cut it out because it doesn't add to any of the dramas. That would be my biggest thing. Is I would talk about turtles. I would say, yes, I really like turtles, and I hope we find turtles here. I'd be monotone and boring.
But I was told that I could keep my stapler.
Yes. Yeah, I would be the Milton of Survivor. I want to try it. I really do.
I didn't receive a piece of cake. I was told
I didn't get any.
I didn't get any cake. That made me choke up that part of the movie. I felt so bad for him. That would be me. You'd take me out because I would feel so bad for you.
But it wouldn't be personal. It would just be wherever you were on the hierarchy of people who had to be removed. Because I probably, I would let the really strong ones take themselves out in the competition, just because maybe if I'm going up to 1 or 2 instead of 5 or 6, then just let that play out. And then the middle part, the easy pickings, like I would go after the middle part, because I don't want any of them, like the passive personalities, to graduate into one of the dominant personalities after the dominant ones are gone. So I'd thin that herd in the middle.
So in the Hunger Games, you'd be in the woods hiding. You wouldn't go out for anything.
Oh yeah, I would wait till there's only 2 of us. Like your probability of getting killed when there's 30 people taking aim at everybody. Like I'm in the mud with a little breathing tube, waiting for hear the cannon 26 times, and then I'll start making my move.
Wait it out.
Wait it out. Patience.
I've been patiently waiting to hear why you have headphones on. Speaking of patience,
Yes.
is that for something? Is that just a new look?
Yeah, it's fashionable to wear headphones on a bald head. Doesn't it look good? I like it.
Looks amazing.
Mm.
Okay.
No, I want to. Okay, so we have conversations on the mics, not being able to hear with these microphones. And sometimes we are off volume. And we start off good. Like right now, we're good. But let's just say you get comfortable and your posture fades and you start sliding back from the microphone. Well, guess when I noticed that? Or guess who notices that?
The listeners?
And BJ. And then BJ either has to work really hard at normalizing the audio, or the listeners complain about it that they can't even hear poor Kellen over there.
BJ always has to work really hard at normalizing us.
Impossible.
That's every day.
So now I'm listening real time. The guy who can't hear is the guy that's listening real time to make sure that we are as equal as I can hear it to be.
Okay. So far it's good?
Yeah. Okay. I can hear me at least.
But if I go like this,
then
nobody can hear me. Yeah. And then I'm back. Okay.
Yeah.
I'm a loud talker.
But radio, and I've already adjusted that. Like I when I set your amplification, like I know that you're loud. And so you being away from the mic isn't the setting. The little slider over there is your setting.
Okay. So be right up on it.
Yeah.
Can everybody hear us okay? Is everybody awake? There's been no comments because everyone's like,
because you brought it the weirdest topic ever.
Listen, I've had to get that off my chest, and I feel like everybody can relate. Who doesn't want to punch someone in the face on a regular basis during their workday?
Yeah, but we didn't say anything political at this point, and I would say that's a W.
Yeah,
I freaking detest politics. You're gonna watch me bow out pretty good for a couple months.
Oh, I saw a video yesterday online, and I physically, literally shook my head. And then I saw you shared it. And I was like, do we even want to go there? Good morning, Jerry. Jerry says good morning.
Good morning, Jerry.
Do you even want to go
there?
No,
I don't. Like I want,
think you know what
I want to pretend like politics does not even exist for a little while. And I know that the team players, that's all they want to hear, the red meat of who's doing what and whatever. But I am so disenchanted with the entire system that I might. Did you ever see that movie where like the families, a bunch of academics, they had a plot of land, The Village? Did you ever see The Village?
M. Night Shyamalan, The Village.
The Village, yeah.
I know I have, but it was very long time ago. I remember a little bit about it.
All right, so basically, the movie is portrayed. No spoilers. So if you haven't seen it, don't want to hear.
Spoiler alert.
Sorry. Little one.
You have 20 years to see it, so
they buy a plot of land and then they live as if they were early settlers, right? Everything was built, log cabins, no plumbing. The dress was from the whenever era that they were being portrayed, and it was very simple life. And the academics or the elders of the group knew that there was an outside world with skyscrapers, modern technology, and whatever, but they hid that from the population that lived on this plot of land. And they used fear to be able to keep people from venturing into the woods and whatever.
They thought there was a monster.
Yes, but aside from the chaos of mismanagement from the elders, I think that is a very practical exercise. I think that splitting off from modern society, and it doesn't even have to be splitting off from modern society, but disconnecting from the version of it that's polluted with secular demonism, where you set up a civilization that's separated and you don't have contact with them, they don't have contact with you, might be a good experiment.
Like on Mars?
Mars could be it, but there's so many plots of land that nobody's interested in right now. Just divvy it up and let people go there.
Just make a commune.
Don't cost the outside world, and the outside world's not going to cost you, and you can just live your life. And and if you have me on that team, I will bring technology that is not like the internet will not be the internet to the outside world. We'll have our own internet where all you do is look up, I don't know, cat memes or something like that, fun stuff, and we'll just deny outside influence.
I had a very interesting, brief experience this weekend. So I was out of town, and I'm not saying far, like I was at Lake Erie. So I don't know, hour and a half away, maybe. Out of town with some family, having fun, not great internet where we were, not great cell service, a little bit, but not like you're going to sit there and be on it all the time like we would if we were home, occasionally. And so it was just a few days of hanging out and talking and swimming and playing games and whatnot. And when I came back, I remember distinctly the first morning I woke up in my own bed, looked at my cell phone, and saw just everything the way it was before I left. And again, not a long period of time, a weekend. And I remember this feeling of, oh, I'm back. Like, this world is back. And it was like, it was nice. And I didn't even notice it at the time, but it felt like I checked out of all the ridiculousness and the stupid and the fighting and the whatever and the misinformation and the like. As soon as I looked, it was like, oh, real world's again. I forgot I left this and now I'm back in it. And it was a feeling of separation, even that small separation. I felt it.
So why that phenomenon happens to everyone.
Yeah.
And so when we come back in town from a trip, the last speech I give before we're almost home is I say, we have broken every routine. We're on a brand new schedule. We've done all kinds of different stuff.
Yeah.
If you get home and start doing any of the same things that you did before you left, you are reinviting everything that you didn't like. So if you didn't like a bad habit, you didn't like a bad routine, now is the time you get rid of it because it's broken. But the minute you do it, I know you want to do it. And so you can't simultaneously complain, right, that how this is so bad when you had a chance to not do the thing and you started doing it again. I have no sympathy whatsoever for that.
Yes. Like, why? Why do we all don't get back on the electronics again and don't get back obsessing over this again and just find something else? No, I feel like it's harder because
why?
I mean,
because it's a psychological addiction that the minute that you were able to get your fix again that you did,
do than there are
here, you had distractions. You had distractions that put your brain in a whole new paradigm.
Yeah.
And the minute that you got back in the familiar environment, you went right back to the habit. So environment controls behavior, and you're in control of environment.
Yeah. End of story. Kind of like, don't they say with addicts, like, you can't go back to your old friends, your old way of life. You got to be done.
Yeah, and we know this shit. I cannot believe academic institutions sit up on that hill, knowing how the brain works and how behaviors affect outcomes, and allow people to struggle so much in so many different departments when they know it, because they're too they're too busy advocating for destructive behaviors rather than teaching people how their mind and body works. Like, it blows my mind how that can happen.
Do you think because they can also benefit off your destructive behaviors?
Man, I love conspiracy theories, but I don't think they're smart enough. I don't think academics are smart enough to put the evil plan together. They're not villains. They're just human beings, right, who are pursuing prosperity like everybody else. And they know there's actually no chemicals that you get from solving the problem, except for if you mean like people pay attention to me, if this problem exists, and breaking the addiction of people worshiping you because you are the antidote for the problems that exist. Would you ever want the problems to disappear? So it's more human nature than it is conspiracy theory. Being important is a big deal. Jerry says, how about the city purchasing the Chill Can property and now needing to figure out what to do with it? I believe 1.3 million was price paid. What could be done with that now? All right, so I have offered many, many, many times to help the city of Youngstown to repurpose that property and make use of it as an incubator.
What is the Chill Can property?
So the city, maybe it's got to be every bit of 10 or 15 years ago, there was a neighborhood that there was a manufacturing company that had an idea that they were going to make a chill can, which is basically a cryogenic can that any beverage you can flip it on, and the can itself would keep the beverage cold. Okay.
Like a high-tech koozie?
High-tech koozie. But it was the actual can, right? The whole can was the device.
The liquid was in this thing.
So at the time, they had, I think it was PepsiCo and Anheuser-Busch that were interested parties to be able to put the chill can in stadiums, baseball stadiums, football stadiums. You buy a beer, it adds $2 or $3 to the cost of the beer, and then now your $10 beer costs $12 beer, or however much it costs right now. And they figured that was a good sale. So they came with a business plan, City of Youngstown. They said, hey, we want to build this manufacturing plant. We're going to create 100 jobs out of this thing and manufacture it right here in Youngstown. Solid plan, right? Got two big distributor or big manufacturers of beverages willing to buy this. Let's go. So the city appropriated the land. They gave them tax abatements. They made promises between the two of them. And I because I can't remember the year, I don't know what was going on at the time. It may have been the housing crisis, but there was a downturn in the economy, and the Anheuser-Busch pulled out because their margins were going down, and they didn't think that they can add $2 more to the cost of their product per can to sell this, so they backed out of the deal. So one of the major companies was gone, right? And so the Joseph's company was like, oh crap, right? And so that went south. And so they started building, but they paused it, and they blamed COVID, they blamed the economy and whatever. But the deal is, it just didn't go the way that they thought it was going to go. All right. And so then, because they didn't come through on their promises, the money that they spent to procure this place, it was just a busted deal. So then they fought in court a bunch of times. Joseph Company didn't come through on their part. The city didn't, receive any of the things they were promised. And so they took the property over. But there are two really nice pole buildings, concrete floors, unfinished inside, but it is such a good candidate for dirty and semi-dirty manufacturing to happen in that place. Do you know how many welders and car detailers come to me and say, I'm a new business and I'm operating it in my garage and there's not enough space here. Is there any warehouse space that I could just rent? Right. I can't take on a big building. I don't have that much in sales, but I'm at a growth jump where if I just had a little bit more space, I could probably double my business. If you took those warehouses, and I saw this actually happen in the late 90s, where manufacturing company would scale down, technology would add some automations, and then they had these huge warehouses and the back portion wasn't being used for anything. They would chain link off these apportionments of the warehouse. It had high power, like you got 220 runs all over. So you want to do a welder, you want to do heavy machinery, whatever. It's outfitted with the power that you need. It had water, at sewer. And so they chain linked it off and gave these little sublets of their back warehouse to small companies to come in there and set up shop and operate. So when I heard these buildings, I was like, that is it right there. You want to foster manufacturing in Youngstown? Turn those buildings into a sublet and bring in 20 companies to take it. Rather than just having one, have one of your city directors take over operations. I'll help them attract the companies, because I could probably place 4, 5 right off the top of my head with people who would lease that space, short-term leases, turn it over, set it to the next guy, help these companies get going. So I've made that pitch so many times to the city of Youngstown. And maybe they don't like it. Maybe they don't have the administrators that want to mess with leasing space to whatever. But I think that would be a big win for Youngstown. The public would see that they made a decent decision. Even like, how could it go south? Right? What is the worst thing that can happen besides tragedy of a spark set in place on fire or whatever? If you had an expense of the city, a property that was owned by the city, and you made the best use of it, I mean, there's no downside to it other than it's going to take someone's time.
Are they just afraid they're not going to find good candidates or people that can?
They're not business minded, and so what they would prefer to do is to use it to sign a deal with somebody who will just take the whole thing over and make a partnership with a company that's now beholden to them, and they're just not very granular in their thinking.
They want like a quick, easy way.
Yeah. Would you rather have 20 businesses move into town or one big business? They're going to take the one big business every single time because it's lazy. Yeah. And so I would prefer giving, 20 local entrepreneurs a space to operate in, even if they can't pay you. Like, let's just say all you're doing is letting them use the space like the library for 6 months to operate out of, and then they go off and get their own place. That's a public service. You know what I mean?
Rather than an empty, abandoned building.
Creating more jobs and creating business, that could be a city expense. That's not, I mean, what's the worst? You're going to pay utilities, right? Everybody's listening in sublet that is subletting. They're going to pay for their businesses. They're going to do their own marketing. They're going to do everything themselves. But I can even expand that and say, like, you know, if you let someone have the space and then also have resources they can use for getting funding and resources to hire people and teaching marketing and all of that stuff, you can have a manufacturing incubator in that building. And I think it's
I was just going to say, like a business incubator.
Yeah, for sure. City owned, wouldn't require a lot of time, already have the parcel. I think
city
it's a
could
no-brainer.
Make money off of it.
For sure.
As much, would you say, as if it were just one big business coming in?
Well, you'd have perpetual revenue. So let's just say, I think these people were paying about $500 a month for their little chain link place. You divide that up into those spaces for small welding, detailing, those small service jobs. You get 100 people in. We'll say 20. 20 is probably pretty doable per building. So you got 40 people paying $500 a month. $20,000 a month coming in revenue. That's going to pay the utilities for sure.
How long has it been sitting there?
15 years at least.
15 years?
Yeah. Let me see the date that the first announcement for Chilcan is. It feels like a long time. Maybe it hasn't been that long.
I hope everyone understands I was not living here 10 years ago, so that's why I need caught
up. 2016. So 9 years.
So 9 years, yeah. Interesting.
So anyway, yeah, I wish I had more influence in that department. Thank you, sir.
And no one else is able to purchase it? Like it's owned by the city now.
Well, I think it just freed up from litigation. The Joseph Company owned the property, and they was going through the courts to see what was going to happen to it now, whether they were going to bankrupt that out and it was just going to go to auction, or the city was going to reclaim it because of what they've invested in the property. And I think just now the city has reclaimed it. So now it's available.
And someone could buy it.
Someone could buy it, yeah.
And turn it into that.
Could. If there's interest in that part of town with those facilities attracting a company that's doing expansion. And
where is it?
It's a couple blocks that way.
Oh.
That way, actually. It's like real close to 680 where it dumps off at, or not 680, what is that? The loop.
Like 11?
No, it's on this side of that. But anyway, it's like real close to a residential neighborhood, but there's it can come downtown through like Andrews Avenue or up this way. So it's connected. It's a place that if you had a manufacturing facility, it's not in the best neighborhood. So you probably have to insulate it from thefts and whatever. And it's not super attractive. That's not where, if somebody were building like one of those climbing wall places or fitness center or an indoor soccer thing, they wouldn't put it here.
I was going to say, is it somewhere that the general public would want to take their business, or would they be like,
well, the people that I talk to can operate anywhere. They're operating out of their garage. So location really doesn't matter to them. They just need space to be able to do their thing and expand. Right. So it would cater to that pretty well.
But if it's like a car detailing place, would somebody go there to get their car detailed?
I don't know. I don't know. If are they going to some dude's house right now that lives in a neighborhood? And is it any better, different, worse? And so
yeah, I mean, yeah, but if it was a nice, safe neighborhood,
well, those detailers are not really doing public marketing. The people who are doing business with them are just their customers, and so customers of you, rather than going to your garage, going to a facility, it might be an improvement over the optics anyhow. Joseph says one of the coolest things Lambeau Field does, instead of selling the naming rights to the stadium, they sold naming rights to the gates, like the Best Buy gate, the Target gate, and so on. And so if the city was entrepreneurial minded, right, you would see a lot more commercialization. So when the city needs money, they go to 3 different families. So every building is named after one of those 3 families because that's the way things been done in Youngstown. But they don't really go to the businesses, right, that could be a participant in the downtown, in the city at large. the way I think they should. That's my big criticism of them, is I don't think because they don't understand what business is that they can cater to business, because it's just a blind spot for them.
This is a silly question.
Yeah.
I'm sure I know the answer already.
But that's what I'm here
gonna
for. I'm here for clarify.
This is a silly question.
Yeah.
Does Youngstown have a dedicated economics department? What's the word I'm looking for? I just had it.
Economic development?
Yes.
Okay.
Economic development department.
I believe, I don't know if they have a people dedicated to that. I know that there are a lot of private economic development companies that work with the city. And
so not a dumb question.
No.
Okay.
No. And that is, my dad actually worked for one of them, Mahoning Valley Economic Development Corporation. And he was in government procurements, where if there was a government, a military, some kind of federal dollars that would have a spend, he would go through those contracts and see how many of them he can turn over and broker to local investors. Okay, so he was representing the area, trying to bring that commercial activity to the area. So he was advocating for ones that lined up with what we could do with labor, utilities, transportation, and seeing if they were a good fit. Okay, and they're private companies where they hold these portfolios that do this brokering, and they never do the economic action, and they never write the bids. They're just there to see that they exist and turn them over to the appropriate people that can act on them. So if the city of Youngstown did that, and they had someone that all they did was try to lure people into town, which and you think like the Joseph Company coming to the area and floating that idea had to have a meeting with somebody, right, to even get that underway. Or did somebody within the city go out and find the Joseph's Company and say, hey, if you're doing this thing anyway, why don't you bring it here? I don't think it went that way. I think it was these
kind of like that networker.
Yeah. I don't think somebody exists no, I don't think there are many entrepreneur minded people there. And if they are, I'd love to talk to them.
Interesting. I myself am a bit of a networker. Networking's important. And if we're not doing that, we as in a city. Okay.
There's two parts of this, though. So every time you sort of have to have a trust with the people who you turn your networking over to. Like if you were to go out and get some business for somebody and hand it over to them, and they do a real poor job on executing what you hand over, you never want to give them that lead again. And the city of Youngstown and the people who live here, let's just say I get in that office and I'm like, I'm going to bring an Amazon distribution facility to Youngstown, Ohio. And I'm going to put it right over there, and everybody's going to be super happy about it. I work super hard to get their interest, and I curate and massage a deal that I think everybody will like, and it's good for the city. And I hand it to the city. The only thing that I would fear is the public would treat it like a bastard child, for one, where they beat up on it, where they'd hate the jobs and type of jobs and that they got in tax abatement and whatever. And they'd be like, the public would not be on board. And then the city would treat it like, they straighten their tie and feel all confident, like they earned something, instead of treating it with respect, treating it, working on behalf of making sure the company is not beat up, and then making sure the public gets a good deal out of it. That's that. And I know that if I took I'm reluctant to advocate to bring something here, just because I know how badly they would F that football if I handed it to them.
Yeah.
I have no faith.
Yeah. I feel like we've all been in one of those situations where it's like, someone's like, hey, do you know someone who whatever, or a place to go for this? And I'd be like, I do. I don't know if I'd recommend them, exactly. Like you don't want to be the person that stuck your neck out for something and then it goes badly, and now you look like you give bad recommendations.
But if the city had that interest, like they wanted to put somebody good who would treat companies well and ingrain them and attract them and keep them happy here in Youngstown, I would hand them deals all day. And think about how many other people would do that. But blimp factories and Avani plants and chill can and the power plant down here, like we watch all these things play out in the worst ways possible, And we're like, man, even if it's a good deal, I'm not handing it to them. I will hand it to Boardman before I hand it to Youngstown.
Yeah.
At least there's a hope that it survives there. And it's not even great conditions in Boardman, but Youngstown would be last on my list to hand an opportunity to.
That's sad.
It is.
That sucks.
But it's repairable. All it takes is having faith that the city cares about economic development 1 iota.
I kind of relate this because my background, I spent a couple of years working with a small chamber of commerce years ago. And in a chamber of commerce, members like to use members, and people who work there or have memberships want to refer other members. And I remember being in a situation kind of like that where somebody needed a particular service and they would come to me and they'd say, hey, do you know anybody in this business? Whatever, this is what I need. And I did. And we had one member that did it. But I personally had used them and was not impressed. And in fact, it was like a sore spot. Like, no, they really were not I would never recommend them. But at the same time, it's like, because of what we do,
right?
You feel like you should.
Well, and that's even having faith in you as a broker. If you facilitate standards that the public can't, and you went through them, and you can show me the list of people you would never recommend, then I would trust the fact that you take some disciplines and you have discretion on who is bad. But if you are just a corrupt entity, if just because they're a member of that, they get an automatic recommendation because there's no value in it.
And then what the president of and again, it was a small one, but what the president then would try to do is work with them and say, here's the thing. We absolutely want you as a member. We love having you as a member. But in order for us to feel comfortable referring you to people, like, here's what we've experienced. Here's some feedback we've got. This is maybe some issues in your business you need to work on to improve. So it was sort of a benefit having that feedback from somebody like, hey, I have this membership and maybe I'll get some business from it. But if the business is not going well, instead of customers just leaving and never saying anything, because a lot of people won't complain if they had a bad experience with a business, they just won't come back. You have someone saying, here's what you need to fix. Is there anything like that in Youngstown, you think, that they could be like, hey guys, like, we're not recommending this place for anything because here's what you need to fix, but then they have to actually sort of listen.
Well, they suffer from the same Youngstown symptoms, right? The Chamber of Commerce, we have a big Chamber of Commerce here.
Yeah.
And so what they do is they key in on the top 20% of membership, and all of the attention and benefit rains down on the preferred list of people rather than the people who are members. And so I think honestly, if you were a good Chamber of Commerce, that if you give a net benefit to your members, other than you get access to a directory and you will let you give an email, come to a luncheon, right?
Yeah.
That's the free level. The people who have to pay are the ones that are receiving an actual preference or benefit from those people. And that way it's just a lobbyist group rather than, but I bet you all those people who were serving people well, the chamber cashed those checks as to being members, right? So the chamber had an interest in keeping more of those people around, not having less. Now, if the chamber's like, if you suck, you're not a member anymore. We're going to stop cashing your checks and you're not going to be here anymore. Then there's value in a chamber, because then it doesn't become this pecking order of super popular companies that get all the attention. And then those under the radar companies, they don't get anything whatsoever.
Yeah. And because I would see where, like, I remember there was a bakery, brand new business. And I stopped in because I was like, member relations or whatever. Here's your sticker. Thanks for being a member. And I was like, this place is a shithole. It smelled bad. It looked bad. It was dirty, very limited to what they could do. And I'm just like, our name is on this. Like, what does that say for your I'm using the term business, but I mean the chamber. If anybody gets, well, I'm a member too. Like, does that devalue, you think?
Yes, because it becomes a club rather than economic development. Like, there should be standards that if you want good practicing companies to come in and create jobs, that there has to be a level and standard that people who are invited are not. Because if you're just after membership dues and you'll take anybody, then the value of being part of it is nothing. Yeah, I could become part of it tomorrow. Like if I could buy a trophy for the Olympics, right? Then the Olympics are unnecessary. You don't have to do anything to get the trophy.
Members that just did their pyramid scheme things.
Yeah, right.
Oh, I sell this.
Yeah, so
and
it's
here's
meaningless. It's
Chamber
meaningless.
of Commerce sticker.
It's meaningless. But entrepreneurial-minded people are necessary in all of these institutions because they will push back on the club normies that will change the spirit of what they're supposed to be accomplishing. Cities need it. Chambers need it. Anybody that does economic development has to know the business, or else they're just a normie pretending.
Yeah.
All right. Cigar Guy says economic development should be the backbone of any community. 100%, Cigar Guy.
Danielle says Boardman does have a group who is trying very hard, meeting with township, county, and port authority today.
Danielle, what's the name of the group? Because I would like to do as much support to those groups. And there are some development groups on the smaller level that almost become mini versions of the Chamber of Commerce. They see the plight and know that it's a joke and whatever, and they start these little business groups, and they help each other and they lend advice, and it's more of like a support group than it is economic development.
Yeah.
And so if any of those groups have attained membership or power to a certain point where they could do influence and they could talk politicians into better economic decisions, I'd be all for that. I just don't know that one exists. The Boardman resident committee. All right. I'll check you out. I don't know. Do you have any kind of public facing documentation or pages or anything like that? I'll check that out later. But yeah, that is critical. When you get citizen activism to decide that they're going to solve a problem that it seems like government officials or the institutions can't solve on their own, that makes me like go back to the Patriot, where people are just so fed up and they know everybody's doing it so wrong, and they've had trust that they were going to figure it out somehow, and they're like, fuck it, I'm just going to do it myself. I love that spirit in human beings.
Are you joining the America Party?
Heartbeat.
Yeah.
Heartbeat.
So I saw an interesting video. This might pivot a little into politics, so I don't know.
That's right.
Who was I watching? Michael Knowles. You know who Michael Knowles is?
I do.
He was talking about Elon's idea of the America Party, meaning everybody is now so fed up with Republicans and Democrats. Let's have a successful third party. And he's like, will never happen. It's not going to work. And he says, and here's why. And he showed this little chart. He says, basically, it's either economic issues or social issues, with people saying, oh, I'm a fiscal Republican, but a social Democrat. You can have all these people, depending on where they lie, still sort of fall into two groups. And he showed this chart, and it was basically the breakdown of people where they stand on social issues and financial beliefs and all these different things. And it was like red and blue. The red believes this and the blue believes this. And he's like, now here's the part of the chart where you have someone that is fiscally conservative but socially liberal or whatever. And he's like, no one. There's no one there. He's like, we are too extreme. There is no one that wants this but this, and a little of this and a little of this. There's not enough to be a party. It's literally on a chart. And I'm like, really? Do you think there wouldn't be enough?
No,
I see your chart. I see your data. I just can't believe it.
People are held hostage to the binary of Republican Democrat because it preceded us. That's the only reason. And splitting off from that means that you create a minority of people who split off. But there is an acceptance curve that goes along with this. You have the early adopters, the people who are gung-ho, they're disenchanted, they don't want anything to do with the regular party. And we saw this with MAGA. MAGA split the Republican Party in two under the same banner, but they are totally different politically, two different political ideologies. So if you took a knife and cut those two off, now the Republicans have two parties. The Democrats, they have two parties. They have the Democrat Socialists. They have the blue collar, blue dog Democrats. They have two parties. It's just a matter of acknowledging that there are so many different factions within your party. You split them off and you make them fight. And the consolidation of power is what led to where we are right now. So the more divisions we have and the more subgroups of interest, doesn't mean that, the blue dogs and the socialists can't work together when it comes to whatever, but they're two different groups as far as politics is concerned. I say we should probably have 6 parties is what it would divide down. Six parties. Yes.
Dang.
Yep. And then they would hybridize where there would some that after a little while you wouldn't be able to tell if they're really in the Democrat camp or not, or they're kind of like Isaac is a good example. Luke is a really good example of people that would be in a party and you wouldn't really be able to tell which they are, and they would be unclassifiable. And that's where we need to be, where you can join and disjoin your group without any kind of repercussions. Half the people that are in the Republican Party are just afraid, right? Mm-hmm. If they leave the Republican Party, they're going to be the first guy that runs out of the boat on the beaches of Normandy, right? You're going to be killed. But if everybody rushes out and you've got a big group of people around you, that group will manage in size. So I agree with Michael Knowles in the respect of the first wave of people abandoning the confines of Republican/Democrat are going to be very alone, very small. And guess who's going to take shots at them? The establishment people who are now going to say, look, you're out there. It's not great out there, right? Mm-hmm. And then how many people then will peel off and go back to the Republican Party because the Republican Party doesn't want to be split. The Democrat Party, they're consolidated powers. Of course they don't want to be split. But I think we're beyond that now. And I think the fractures have happened. And, especially with Elon being a catalyst, I don't think if Elon starts the America Party, that those fractures, I think the Republicans will gather up all of their, traitors of their thing because they just have enough power to do it. But the America Party is that big catalyst. So I'm joining. I just want to see the whole thing burn. I want chaos.
Does he have a timeline or like a game plan for this?
All right. So did you read anything about it?
No.
All right. Let me catch you up then.
Okay.
So the first America Party is going to be the spoiler party, right? So in Congress right now, we have razor thin margins. The last couple of election cycles, the Democrats, Republicans have been very close. There's usually every vote is decided on 4 or 5 people that kind of waver on either side. And so the goal is to take enough seats in the House and the Senate to be that power position player where you have
this sounds familiar.
You have to be included on the discussions because your vote matters. Like both sides want you in. And so you can start demanding concessions to make people gravitate towards you instead of them making demands that you like, you're going to vote for me anyway. I don't even value your vote. So they can be included in the conversation because they're going to be the spoiler candidates. It's a prime time to do that too.
I do remember seeing something he said, we just need to vote to something, to people. And I didn't quite understand what I knew he was like, oh, we just got to get this sort of ability to vote or whatever. But
we already have 4 Republicans on the House side that are uncontrollable, not knowing how they're going to. 99% of them are going to vote for something and against something. That's why every vote is like all Republicans are on this side and all Democrats are on this side. But the votes that aren't in there, John Fetterman's one of those that can easily be captured. Even the Mark Cubans, who I figured is as Democrat as you can get. He's an entrepreneur, but he's a big Democrat. He's probably one of those people that would join the America Party. So it's got some power players that are willing to kind of stick their necks out there. And if you can get a good 10 represented seats in there for the America Party, it's a real deal. How many libertarian people have been in Congress? I think it's 0. So as long as Libertarian Party existed, they really have not gotten any kind of leverage control over either houses. So yeah, that all the libertarians though will now become America Party combined with the disenfranchised Republicans and Democrats. So
when is Rand Paul Republican?
I'm going to say I think he's a registered Republican, but I think he's an independent. I think he's a libertarian. He's all 3.
Yeah. I was going to say for sure. I think he would be down for that.
Oh yeah. Yeah, so that you'll see it, but it took a serious contender, and usually the libertarian movement had so many flaky people that are just wackadoodles and conspiracy theorists that nobody really wanted to join that team because of how unfocused they were on what they even stood for.
Was Bernie originally third party?
He might have been an independent. I don't think I think for a little, because he was a socialist. The Democrats weren't far, left enough for him. I think he was an independent.
He wasn't libertarian, but he
No.
was. What's the difference between libertarian and independent?
Independent, you were just not making a claim to any political ideology, where libertarian is small government, personal liberties, basics, small government, get regulations.
Maybe that's what maybe I was more independent, because I was just like, it sounds good.
Yeah. What do I have to put to vote in this one? Right.
Yeah. Like, who do I like?
That's it.
What do I like?
You would have been an unqualified independent.
Interesting.
Yeah. Bottom line is they all need to work together. Yeah, that's a kumbaya pipe dream. Politics is all about power, money, and influence, and they are not going to get their drums out and work together. It's going to be blackmail, leverage, and what I can make you do. Because as far as we've moved away from the ideas of slavery, right? Study the history of slavery, and it's happened in all forms throughout our entire history. And human beings really, really, really like to control other human beings. It's in part of our DNA that we like to control human beings. So if I literally just take you out of society and I have ownership over you, I can make you do everything and say everything, whatever, versus, or maybe I can't do that anymore. They took the rights away for owning another person. Now I'm going to own you in a different way. I'm going to take leverage and blackmail over you and control your thoughts and actions, even though you can't stay in that room and in the cabin behind the farmhouse, right? You can't make any independent decisions because I freaking own you. So institutions do it, religions do it, companies do it, we all do it. So, but this sort of like slavery light that people try to do on other people, and when you see it, you freaking know it. Like when you can't do something because you know of the repercussions, and the repercussions were controlled by another person, isn't that person controlling you? Don't they own you in that respect? You still have
blackmail, basically.
Yeah, you still have free will, but you really don't have free will. So I think somebody brought in Jeffrey Epstein already. I'm sure of it.
There's a couple comments up top.
Two-party system for over 340 million people doesn't work anymore. Absolutely. Let's see. Who would have thought that John Fetterman would be the reason? Him going, and even if it's a simple single issue where his loyalty to Israel allowed him to get off the reservation and join independent thinkers, it's at least a seed that he's not afraid to push back against the status quo, and I have a lot of respect for that. Thoughts on News Channel News 5 Cleveland? Ohio educators are speaking out after Governor DeWine signed a bill into law that would remove their voices from the active and retired teachers pension fund, calling the move undemocratic. I'd have to look into what that means. I don't usually take headline sounding things. I'll have to look to see what removing their voices mean. But if it means that pare back, I'm a balancing person. So whenever somebody gets power concentrated in a department, I like to see it be pared back so that there's pushback on it, that there's a balancing property on the other side. And I think teachers unions have an immense amount of power that is unchecked with there's nothing governing on the other side. So whenever I hear teachers union getting pared back, I'm usually going to be for it until I see that it's swung in the other direction. So I have to look into it and see if that's the case. Rand Paul is a Republican, but both of our senators are not real popular right now here in Kentucky. And Cigar Guy says that John Fetterman is the voice of reason. Julie says it has never been this divided, maybe because we didn't have a president that said he hates Democrats. Yeah, but because he didn't say it didn't mean that it was like that all along. This is almost like, showing you how the sausage is made.
Yeah.
Right? The way this hatred, this divide has always been that.
I was going to say, we've never been this divided. What? We weren't divided when Biden was in office? We weren't divided at any other time than right now? That's just not true.
The phenomenon is because we have easy 24-hour access to information that previous generations did not. We have the ability to voice and vocalize. Think about it. Let's just say I hate President Obama, right? And I needed to let everybody know how much I hated Obama. And then you turn on the TV, and how can you discover about Obama, right? The internet wasn't connected to every single person. You watch the news. Who had the news? You had liberal mainstream media. So what you heard about Obama would never be reflected in my voice.
Mhm.
So voices that were unheard before are being heard. So it's like, how are we divided? He hates Obama.
Yeah. We're just louder.
Or accessible. My
Yeah.
voice can't be tamped down.
Yeah.
Right. That's why it feels divided. The divide was already there. You're just hearing more of it.
I mean, back in the day, they used to say, respectable people don't talk about politics. You don't discuss politics, money, and religion. You just don't discuss it. And it's like, doesn't mean there's not a divide there. It doesn't mean it's louder now. It's more accessible.
Less
it's
polite.
Everywhere. It's more in your face, and people are more brash about it, and people are more willing to fight about it. And that's what I mean by it's louder. It's just, you're noticing it more now. It's more prevalent everywhere you look. Doesn't mean it's never happened. It hasn't been there.
In comparison, though, we're watching history and we're comparing it against things where you couldn't know or didn't know. So every time President Trump goes golfing, it's on all of the news networks. Do you think that in the early 1900s, any presidents golfed? Okay.
Mhm.
Or did all sorts of things that nobody would
Yeah.
ever freaking know about because there weren't cameras on every whatever.
Yeah.
So what are you comparing against the lack of knowledge in the 1900s versus knowing everything today?
I keep thinking, didn't Kennedy have an affair with Marilyn Monroe? Was that a thing?
I think so.
But nowadays, the presidents are womanizers, right? And but back then it was.
We're so much more womanizing happening now, for sure. Sorry for being flippant.
There's a couple more comments.
No, weren't this divided until Trump. That is a likely story. We have always been this divided. The divide has always been there. Maybe there were some passive people, like middle of the road people who just didn't care at all. And now I think because things are so public, that I think more people are involved and caring. But those people were there all along. They just didn't.
Yeah. I cannot recall a time in my adult life since I've been voting that there were not angry discussions about the two candidates. And whoever won, there's these loud people that hated that person who won and how awful they are. And then somebody else won. And there's people who want to march in the streets and talk about how they, like when Obama was in and everybody's like, he's not even American and he's Muslim and he has a Muslim tapestry hanging in the White House and he blah, blah, blah. Like everybody went up in arms about him. And then everybody's up in arms about the next person who's in office. And it's just like, that's just not true.
Yeah. I am addicted to history, and I read all of the biographies for all of the major players in pretty much every era. And every time I read one of these, I am in disbelief of how similar it is to our actions and behaviors of today. When you get a real account of things that you didn't even know were the case, and you read about somebody being the way that you were taught it in school and saw it on the news versus what that really happened and how it really went down. And we're talking about these people had a couple of biographers that would write about it, but now we have millions of biographers that can take accounts from things. So which would you rather? A lot of imaginative people creating stories about what they think people are? Would the history book say Trump is a Nazi? Because it's been repeated so often from so many people who have an axe to grind with Trump, cast him as a Nazi. How many ChatGPTs are going to refer to Trump as a Nazi sympathizer in the future because we said it so often?
Yeah. I mean, I saw, like I said, there was a website that I use in my show prep when I'm recording for this other radio station. And it was like celebrity birthdays, and it shows the celebrity and it's their birthday and you click on it and it tells you what they're famous for and what they've been in. Well, one of the celebrities was, oh my gosh, what's her name? The African-American woman that was killed when police came into her apartment and they shot her.
I don't remember her name.
So she was there, and it was this whole write-up about a wrongful death. And it says right around the time that George Floyd was also wrongfully murdered or something like that. And I'm like, that's a really strong way to word that when it's very controversial. There are two sides. Some people don't think he was wrongfully murdered. Some people think it's something totally different. But if somebody wasn't alive in that area, pulled up this information,
They would totally
oh my
believe it.
gosh, there was somebody in history who was wrongfully murdered by police and blah, blah, blah. And you're like, and I'm not saying he was or wasn't. I'm saying there are two different sides that believe two different things. And depending on the source of information you pull up, you will now believe something.
Yeah. Because today's history whitewashes things and makes believers out of, I mean, they're getting to kids and giving them a lack of information throughout their entire impressionable years so for them to graduate and think a certain thing because of what they've been taught. You can't blame them. I blame education system for doing that whitewashing.
Yep. JFK had many. I guess I think he means women.
It's the very rich and very poor. The divide. Oh yeah. Yeah. And my fear, like right now, we can still do something about this. The Democrats have claimed all of the victim voters that they possibly can and convinced them that they can't do anything. So you have this whole group of people who are poor and getting poorer because they bought into the marketing that the deck is stacked against them.
Mm-hmm.
But it's still possible if you broke out from that mind control and said, F that, I can do this. I can bootstrap it and I can do this on my own. It's still an economy that can be pro one person making a difference and seeking prosperity. We let it go too long and it will be insurmountable. Individual people will be crushed when they try up against the hordes of big corporate entities. Like we create these big behemoths, right? Because we like all the benefits. But, let's just say you have a small retail shop or a hardware store and you're competing against Home Depot, Walmart, and Target. All right. Looking at the future, you're like, I'm probably dead in the water right now. It's only a matter of time before the customers who come to me will be inconvenienced by the things that I can't do. And I can't market in the things that I can do well. I'm just going to be crushed. But there are other segments that big corporate entities aren't good at. And you can still be a specialized, smart person who tries harder than the next guy and still can compete against those companies. But if every insurance, every bank, every retailer, if every industry is dominated by big corporations, you're done. You cannot compete against that. But we're still at a time where we're not all dominant. Some industries are dead in that way, but not all of them.
Mm-hmm. Julie says Tip O'Neill was the epitome of working with both sides. Bill Clinton was known to work in bipartisan fashion.
It used to be a phenomenon that could happen when government worked appropriately. But as long as you get a bully, strong-arming government, then and that's what every level that when your side does something. So I'll use the let me think of an example here. Whenever you're in a position of power, right? Those are the people that get to choose whether or not we're going to be divided or not, right? Mm-hmm. And if you think your position is right, noble, and the other guy's wrong and a Nazi, you're never going to go over and help the big, beautiful bill get passed for the sake of compromise, right? You're never going to do it. And so when you're in the position of power is the time to give up that power. Republicans did this for probably the last 20 years. Republicans get in office and they don't do anything Republican-y, right? Because all they do is they don't take the power of their position. They hand out olive branches to the Democrats. The Democrats take advantage of those olive branches. And then when you look at what happened, it was Republican light, right? But when the Democrats get in there, they make no concessions. They make no olive branches. They don't because now they're in power. They can do all the things that they've been sitting on the sidelines and doing. So we compare it. Republicans are fed up with always getting eventually a majority, but doing nothing with it, gets squandered because of the sake of, unity.
Never then they get told, you guys need to reach across the aisle and work together.
But that's just the game that they play between the both sides. So Democrats had the chance to work together. And I agree that I think in that era, Bill Clinton was a really good politician. I think Obama was a really good politician. And that's what led to the corruption. I'm not saying that the way they did it was good for the overall game of things.
Yeah.
So so if we horse trade, you ever gone through a horse trading session?
No.
Okay. Horse trading session is a very you follow trading in sports.
Very little, almost no.
Okay, so in baseball, they have salary caps and they have all this gravity that sets rules on how you can trade things.
Okay.
So I really want the guy that you have. And I have a guy on my squad that I know you need. And I know in the future you need a draft pick. So I put together a plan where I trade something you have for something I have and maybe a gamble opportunity sometime in the future. And then you do what you say you're going to do. I do what I say I'm going to do. And we make this whole trade happen. So in Congress, when you have the executive working with the legislature, they have to get some. They can do certain things. They can't do certain things. So if they work together, so they horse trade and say, if you do this, I'll do this for you. You vote for this, I'll vote for this with you. You like this, I'm going to give up this thing in this bill so that you'll vote for it over here. So there's these series of agreements they have with other people, and all you have to do to make it work is come through on your part of the obligation. If you do that, people will trade with you. If you don't do that, then people will stop trading with you because you didn't say what you were going to do. So where do you think? So when I was watching the Big Beautiful Bill in its passage the night before it passed, it was a deadlock at 216, right?
Mm-hmm.
When I woke up in the morning, 2 of the votes on the negative from Republicans moved over to the other side of the ledger. So what caused somebody to vote for something? The vote hadn't ended, so they're allowed to amend it. Something happened between when they voted this, which might have been in itself a power play. If you see my no up there on the board, I did it early so you could see it. Some dude walks up to you and says, here's what I'm going to do for you. You do this, and then I'm going to do this.
Mm-hmm.
So there might not be an authentic voting session. What if everybody there is only coming through on a horse trade obligation that they made with somebody else, right? And so what we see is we think that a principled legislator walks up to that vote, pulls that lever with how they felt about it in that moment, but they might have been completely controlled by the negotiations they did 2 months ago. That's the corruption that happens because when it manifests in its most extreme form, then all of it is inauthentic. There's nothing true or real about it.
I can see why people would want to know and be able to see what representative voted in what way. But do you think there would be a benefit to not knowing who voted how? If it was like, hey, everyone's voting on this and you don't know what representative said or said.
There's a couple of positions on both of those floors that poll the members in which way they're voting. So even before they pull the lever, they know where everybody's kind of at. And they won't even start the vote until they've accounted for how many votes are going to be up on that board. And so there's all kinds of negotiations that are going there to sway people to vote one way or the other. And it can come from the executive. It can come from, the whips. It's a very orchestrated maneuver, every vote.
Mm-hmm. It's just so shady. Dirty.
Mm-hmm. Let's see.
Bill Clinton was really good with working with interns.
Yes.
And that is so interesting to me because all I hear about during election season is all of the things Trump has said about women and done to women and objectifying women and all this with women. And I'm just like, again, are we all supposed to act like this is the first time a politician has done something inappropriate with another woman? Like, why do some get a free pass and some don't?
Marketing. Why do some hamburgers sell because of the spokesperson on the TV and some of them goes womp womp? It's marketing.
Yep. Like, he did this, but he also did this. And that's what's more important to me. I had somebody say one time when I was trying to figure out who to vote for, and they're like, well, I just could never vote for a guy that would talk that way about women. And I'm like, do I want my president to talk that way about women? No. But if it's that, And this, like, where do I hold my weight? What is more important to me? A stance on this or how they spoke about women? A stance on this or how they, and I always end up saying, find me one who doesn't, and we've got something.
Okay.
Find me one who's never said anything inappropriate, who's never done anything inappropriate, who's never.
What do you think those margins are? If you were to be able to look into everybody's soul and put them in two camps, the people who have said disparaging thing about women, said something racist, did something that was off color, how many do you think are in that box?
All of them.
Think all of them?
There is no, I don't know.
I think there are a few.
One.
I think it is a single digit percentage of people who have kept the straight and narrow. And the deal is that I bet you don't know who they are, and you would not be able to picture who they are if you knew. They're very few. They don't do very well in politics. Straight and narrow people, like if you're slimy, you do really well. You might be president one day.
Yeah.
But if you're lily white, you will be murdered, metaphorically. And maybe physically.
Metaphorically.
Hopefully metaphor. It kind of reminds me of the days when the kings ran the country. They taxed the hell out of the people so they could control the people. 100%. And that is the model. Like I said, we moved on from slavery only to create slavery light. We got rid of religion only to create tons of religious type of activism. What was cool about being a king is that you could just do whatever you wanted, right? So your job was to take people who would challenge you and, send your army after them and make them so they can't challenge you anymore. So what do we do in government? Don't we do mini versions of that? Control people in debt, control people by blackmail, control people by rules and regulations. It's all about controlling people. Yeah. And I know that's so totally cliche, but it's semi-obvious when you look at it as a cliche, but it's really obvious when you take the principles of those strategies and apply them to say, can the government, are you free? Is first off, like when you were a kid, did your parents tell you you have freedom?
As a kid?
Yeah.
I mean, not much. I'm
okay.
A kid.
So as a kid, and when somebody said I had freedom, it means that once my parents, I'm out of here, right?
Yeah.
I can just do whatever I want.
When you're 18,
freedom.
You're free to go.
So I look at the speed limit. I'm like, I'm not free. I have somebody telling me how fast I'm going to go. That's not freedom. I mean, I have to pay taxes. That's not free. I went around and noticed every way that what I thought freedom meant in the word.
Yeah.
We weren't free. We got people telling us to do everything. Do this. Don't do that. Go to jail for this. Threaten your life for this. Like, dang, like, where's the freedom if this is what freedom is? Anyway.
Speaking of taxes, real quick,
yeah.
Did you see Trump saying he wants to do away with property tax?
Yeah.
Is that something you
think
is?
Trump is on my shit list right now. So I am going to
since yesterday.
I am going to wait. I'm going to wait until time has gone on and find what the F is happening. This is not real life right now. Okay. So anything he says, I'm going to put it through the.
I saw and I went, you piece of crap.
Okay. So
exactly.
I'm going to put it through the filter of, I don't want to hear you right now. Okay. So anything he says, I'm not going to be able to put it through an optimistic or neutral filter. And so
you feel some kind of way about him. You have emotions about him.
I am paused. I'm pausing myself until more data comes out, because there's only one situation where this will make me happy. Okay. One situation. And if it's not that, dead to me. It's TDS. Now this is DTM.
DTM.
Yeah, it's gonna.
I don't have TDS. I have DTM.
Yep, dead to me.
We're dead to me.
If, and I don't know. I'm not going to speculate. I'm not going to get over invested in it, but definitely on the shit list right now.
I hear ya.
Jerry says Obama and Clinton are so against the current government, i.e., Republicans. They had their choice.
Had their
chance and should have walked away, first throw daggers and criticize. I remember when George W. Bush was no longer president, he went back to Texas and in interviews refused comment on current president and would only talk about when he was president that is respectful. And that is the noble nature of being president. Like, there was something special about being president. The decorum, the way you behaved, the way you treated people should have been better than us, right? Now they're just us. And so we know all of our foibles, the things that gets us, gets them too. And I don't want them near the levers of government if they can't behave a certain way. So it's out the window. I'm so jaded on politics.
It's kind of funny. I hear both. I hear people say, oh, we need someone who's not a politician and we'll run this like a business. And we need someone who's more like us and understands us. But the moment we see them react like a normal average person would, they're like, oh my God, you should have more decorum and more respect and be above everyone else when it comes to that. And it's like, well, which do you want though? Like, you can't have both. What do you want? Do you want them to be this way or do you want them to be this way?
Mm-hmm. It would never happen that colorful or vulgar language would be used in the institutions of government. And now it happens almost every session that I watch.
Yeah. Like session. I cannot imagine Obama saying they don't know what the F they're doing.
Right.
I just can't see that ever coming out of his mouth. But everybody wanted, oh, I don't want a politician. I want a businessman.
It's what you get. It's what you get. You ask for it. It's what you got. Let's see. Do you ever see 26 women accuse president of what's that?
Sexual assault.
Sexual assault. Let's just say half of them were lying. 13 is still an unacceptable number. And I wish the Democrats don't cry wolf every 20 seconds and try to attribute all kinds of things, because if there was a happening, right, I would absolutely believe you. But right now, if I were to believe you, he's a Nazi, he's a,
racist,
laundry list. Yes, I can't believe any. You're going to have something appropriate to say one time, and I'm not going to believe you because you cried wolf and you were dramatic about every single thing. I do agree that Trump was probably a ladies' man. He was probably, I'm not going to call it abuse, but I'm going to say he was a womanizer, just like Bill Clinton was, just like probably most presidents are. And I think some of the people, when he reached political heights, that his critics used those instances to take shots at him, just like the 34 felonies applied to anybody else.
Again, I think it's just quote unquote louder now. There's more accusations. First of all, an accusation is not factual.
Right.
It could be 20 women come forward, 100 women come forward. We don't know that that's a thing. We don't know that they're all telling the truth. We don't know that this isn't a political shot.
It's exactly right.
Yeah. And so it's like,
so all of us reasonable people have to reserve judgment because we see this stuff play out where the people that are complaining about it take shots at him all the time. So like what?
Yeah. Like the whole account that government has to the hush money account for women to not say anything, that didn't just start.
No.
That didn't just come into play with Trump. That's been around for a long time.
Yeah.
So just because it's now associated with him does not mean it has never happened with anyone else.
Yeah, I take exception with it no matter where it exists. And I just don't believe that we're using the same terminology.
Yeah. Yeah.
30 years later, running for president, give me a break. Not even 30 years. Carter, there is clearly a pattern.
Oh, 30 years is when they came out and said something. Is that it?
Yeah, the timing of this. I mean, like if somebody has a problem with you and then you become wealthy and then they come after you after you become wealthy when they can take something of you. There's data in that, whether or not what inspired you, because you wanted to seek justice or you had an end that now revealed itself as an opportunity. Well, if you want to run for president, there's a bunch of people that don't want you for president and they're going to throw the kitchen sink at you, right? They're going to craft whatever they can to try to take you out. And that was,
it's like, why now?
Exactly.
Why now?
So I'm not saying it didn't happen. I'm reserving judgment until I know stuff from people who don't take shots at him every single day. So
yeah. Julie says, read Katie Johnson lawsuit deposition. Sick. I also heard that Joe Biden got in the shower with his daughter, which is sick. Is that true? I don't know. I wasn't there. It could be a rumor. I don't know.
Spoiler,
So-
most of them are 666. So giving me an
Yeah.
instance, when you keep electing 666 people, you're going to get 666.
And we're not saying it's okay. And we're not saying we shouldn't ever look into men abusing women. I'm saying if you only hate one person who does it and not another,
I question your motives.
yes.
But if you, okay, let's just say you were advocating all of them, no matter what, and you're going after them, I'm on your team because I know that what you're against isn't the person, but the action. And I'm with you on that.
Yeah. It'd be like, oh my God, why are we even worried about an Epstein client list? Let's just hate Epstein. He's this bad guy and let's just hate him. And he's the one who did it. Well, if 100 and something others did too, do they get a free pass? And you got to hate them all, I feel like.
And that is the beauty of being able to do shows like this and having reasonable people where we can be objective no matter who's in our crosshairs. And if you do the action, like you're in the freaking crosshairs for sure. Evidenced by how I feel about our current president right now in this moment. And I'm going to treat him just like any other president. If you laid down cover fire when Joe Biden was cognitively declined and you made excuses for him, then you would expect right now that I would have 10 excuses of why this is no big deal. And we really shouldn't be paying attention to the Epstein list and whatever. But Objective Joe and Objective Kelin, like we're able to disconnect from the things that control us, right? Or because we don't want them controlling us at all.
I detested Clinton's shenanigans.
Well, good for you, Julie.
Those shenanigans. Why is Clinton involved in shenanigans, but Trump is involved in sexual assault? Did you? Did you notice the wording there?
Just
you little shenanigan. You little menace. You little.
Well, I'll defend Julie. Yes, it might have been subconsciously. Maybe she, softened the accusations at Bill Clinton. But what she meant is shenanigans is an encapsulating misbehaviors. So there you go, Julie. I defended you.
But yeah, I was thinking last night to myself how I feel like for a while, for the last, 6 months maybe, I have been in this mindset of almost defending Trump a lot because I see the ridiculousness of one side that, is okay with one thing, but not if this person does it, and taking things said out of context. And I was kind of proud of myself to where, even though I have felt like I was defending someone for a long time, the moment something came up that I was like, no, that's shitty. That's shitty. Any way you look at it, that's shitty. I didn't have someone else tell me that you said this. I watched you say it. I heard you say it. I saw the context in which you said it. And I shook my head and went, you can be an enormous piece of crap. And he can be an enormous piece of crap. And he's being a piece of crap right now.
All right. So I'm inventing something. This is good. So listen to this. Here's a plan. I'm going to bring Maury Povich out of retirement. Right. And we are going to have the Maury Povich voting system. I'm going to put together a website and we're going to take every candidate for every election. And I'm basically going to profile them of everything that they've done. Everything from sexual assaults, everything from vulgarities, how they played with other people. I'm going to just rate them, right?
Is it going to be factual things
or
accusations?
Factual things. Anything
Only
that's provable. Factual things. Everything that we know about everything in a database about every candidate. You as a voter are going to basically list all the things that are super important to you. Super important that they're not a Nazi. Super important that they're not this and this. And you just put your list there. And then you go and vote, having all of the information about everybody that you vote for and what they are. And then you get walked out on stage with your ballot in hand. And you hand your ballot to Maury and says, I believe in all of these principles. And he'll run it through a little ballot runner. He'll compare it against the people that you voted for. And he'll tell you that's a lie, right? If you vote for anyone who you say doesn't carry these things and you voted for, or does carry these things and you voted for it, that's a lie. So vote, if you have a principle and you can't vote for somebody who gave money to whatever, or participated in an extramarital affair, or did drug use, or use whatever's important to you. Maury will tell you if what you say you believe in is a lie or not. Voting will shift huge. Think about if there's a voting block of 100 million people who vote solely on principles, and if you are checked, you can't even vote. If you put your ballot through on someone who because you're telling the attributes that are important to you, and then AI is only lining up your vote with people who reflect those attributes, elections change.
Yeah. There's a website I've used. I don't remember what it was. Where they ask you a bunch of questions on this issue. Do you feel this or do you feel this? Here's another issue. Here's what it's looking at. Would you say we should do this or would you say we should do this? And how about this? And you answer all of it, not knowing who said what. At the end, it said your percentage is with this candidate.
No, the vote automatically casts. It does not even tell you who you voted for. It only aligns your beliefs up with the people who are part of those beliefs.
Yeah, that's what I got. It was like, oh, you're so many percent in this guy's realm and a little percentage in this person's realm, and these are the people you align with.
Then who's marketing to you? For you to have either different beliefs. Now, I have to say, Kelin, I know you feel the people who assault people are bad, but I need you to not check that box on your ballot, because all my candidates disappear if you check that box. So please don't check that box. And then you're gonna be like, what? You're advocating for me permitting that behavior? I won't do it.
I won't do it.
I won't do it. That would be a freaking amazing. I can definitely hack that system, and so it's not perfect. But
I kept thinking, I said, but you would then have to trust that the item you selected does in fact match with that person. Because I feel like in the media, we're always told, well, they think this, they are this, they're anti-vax, or they're whatever. And I'm like, well, I wouldn't want that.
Okay, so the first round of this, we're going to make it only on things that they've said and admitted to publicly. All right. So like if you just put in, I like capitalist entrepreneurship, right? Well, the Bernie Sanders just disappears off the list because he's publicly said he is not that thing. The things that are 100% provable. Right. And then you have people catering to where people's principles are instead of buying their vote and spiting, like when they're campaigning, right? They say everything that they want you to hear so that you'll vote for them. Well, now they won't have to campaign to you at all. Right. All they'll have to be is either be something, say something publicly. Right. And then they disappear off some people's ballots. That would be freaking amazing. I'm working on it. It's a work in progress, but I think that's how AI could serve us well, where we don't tell them who we're voting for. We vote what we want.
Yeah. Let's do that.
Yeah, totally. Bringing Maury out of retirement for this. This is a great idea.
Oh,
adjudicated rape is different than consensual. Adjudicated. Something that's gone through the court system on the like a civil trial. I'm assuming that's what that means. It's where it's
basically her argument is Trump did things against women's will, and Monica Lewinsky was a willing participant.
Oh, I see.
So Clinton's shenanigans and Trump is SA.
Okay. Like if they're doing that, I mean, Trump was married, I'm assuming, at the time, and he did things that I disagree with as far as being loyal to your wife. So yeah, he would get that. If my checkbox said staying true and being loyal to your wife, he would be dismissed from my ballot.
And so would Clinton.
So would Clinton.
So would JFK.
So would JFK. I think Obama stayed true to Michelle.
As far as we know.
I don't know. He seemed like a guy that if I wanted to like own him through blackmail, I don't think I could take the sexual approach and tempt him in that department. I think he was pretty loyal on that front.
Kind of like what's his name that wouldn't even ride in a car with a woman?
Pence.
Yes, Mike Pence. Yep. Like, you ain't getting that on me.
Mitt Romney. Like,
is he the same way?
Yeah, he was a Mormon guy and very religious, and so yeah, he would be impervious to the sexual allegations. I'm almost certain of that one. But I would be surprised if you told me tomorrow the politician who was supposedly had, upper crust morals that faltered, I would say, yeah, another human being did a human being thing. So it's not above. It's just very unlikely from how he
Yeah.
carried himself in public.
Yeah, I agree. I think Trump is just he's louder, he's more outspoken, he's more in your face. He gives you material to work with 100%.
For sure. That's his shtick.
Yeah. And so it's very hard to believe then every attack on him. Maybe that's his defense. Maybe he's like, who knows what I'll say or didn't say? Because it could be easy for someone to put this accusation on me, but it's also easy to not believe it because there's so many accusations because I'm so in your face and now you don't know what
That
to
is the
believe.
definition of a mud monster. A mud monster is not afraid of you throwing more mud at them. They only grow stronger when you throw more mud at them. And that is Trump. If they wanted to hurt Trump, right, they would stop throwing mud because he is powerful from the energy and attention you give him. If you ignore him and don't throw things at him, he will say whatever you can call this stuff, this stupidity that comes out of his face hole.
Yeah.
He would not say it because it's not effective.
He's only going to be controversial.
Yeah, he wouldn't be. He'd be boring and he wouldn't be able to get anything done. And it would just be on to the next president.
One of the things I liked about RFK Jr. is he seemed to get pretty open about anything he was accused of. So I feel like it would be harder to be like, oh, RFK, so slimy, he did this. He will flat out tell you when there was the whole controversy with the dead bear in Central Park, flat out admitted it. Here's what I did. It was dumb. It was very childish. I regret my actions. I was stupid. I was drinking back then and it was a dumb thing I did. And I was like, thanks for owning up to that. And he cut off a whale's head. Told you exactly what he actually did and why he did it and how it went down. And he's just like, what else you got? Like, I like that. If they said, whatever you want to ask me, and I will address it completely. For sure. Yeah. Even if it paints him in a bad light.
Yep.
He'll say, you're right. That was dumb. Mm-hmm. I looked really dumb doing that, but I'm not going to lie about it.
Yep.
I trust that.
Yep. Julie said, all I want is someone that puts the country, all of us, first. Go ahead, say it. I know you want to.
Do you, though? I don't know. What do you want to say? When you find that person, let me know.
I am an idealist, so I can very much empathize with those of us who feel like everybody's put ahead. But you don't have a single interest that can agree that is even an interest. So when you say put this country first, does that mean on all occasions? If it's in America first, you're basically a Trump supporter at this point. And so when you say those things, it doesn't resonate how you think it is. If you segment out and say, if you put people first ahead of all interests, you're going to be put into some confrontations where you were put before another human being and be in conflict with your own principles. So you have to be more specific about what you want to be put first. Should Ukrainians be put, or should the United States be put before Ukrainians? Right? That would be in America first. Should my household be put before a invading immigrant household? Would that be U.S. putting us at first?
If people are charging a lot of tariffs and making us pay a lot of money, but they're not reciprocating, would it not be putting America first to make someone else do the same thing?
That's a hard ideal when set that generally to even do anything about. And
it's almost like put us first, but not in that way, not in that way,
exactly.
not in that way.
If you've got asterisks where you don't want us to be put first, then it's hard to say that. So
in fact, Julie, I'm curious, do you have an example? When you say, I want someone that would put all of us first, this country first, in what way? What does that specifically look like to you?
Or the most egregious, where you don't think America's being put for first. Give us the most egregious, and then we'll solve it. We can solve the world's problems here.
Mm-hmm.
Carter says there are no adjudicated rapes, by the way. The way that I picture this going down is somebody pops up, they get a check written to them, and they go away. Or They go to a civil trial, and the standards, it's not a conviction, it's not a felony, they're not putting you in prison. It's one person versus the other, and the standards of proof are very low. And so it's likely that if you're a high profile person, you go to a civil trial, the attorney wants paid, the other person wants paid, you negotiate a settlement and it gets paid out. Doesn't mean you did anything. It means that you want this thing to go away, and they asked a low enough figure that it's in your best interest to make it go away. I would love to believe in the court system that all they want is the just thing from happening, right? And here's an instance in Joe land where I stuck to my principles. So I was taking a traffic court for doing something. It was probably speeding, maybe going through a red light, something. I don't remember what it was. And I went in front of the judge and I said, here's my case. I know what it is. It was a traffic light in Poland. So I was pulling out of the parking lot and the traffic light was above me, right? So I couldn't see what it was. And so the car went by and I followed the car out and I got pulled over. And I went to the judge and said, hey, I didn't willingly go through a stoplight. I followed traffic. And if I went through the red light, so did that person who I followed went out the red light. And the judge said, well, we're gonna have to set a court date. We're gonna bring the officer in and whatever. And the prosecutor took me in the back office and said, listen, all you have to do is say that you did it, and there will be no points off of your license, right? It'll be a $50 fine and we'll go home from now. And I said, but I didn't do it. And the prosecutor said, do you hear what I'm offering you right now? It means there's no points on your license. So this isn't going to affect your insurance. This is not going to be anything. And I said, the principle is you're going to make me say something that I do not believe, which would be a lie. So I went in front of the judge and I said, not guilty. I did not do this. And I chose to get points put on my license and pay 5 times the fine because I wouldn't take the deal and agreed to have done something that I didn't do. So I know how our courts operate. And this is a small traffic thing, but think what happens on these cases. A civil case goes to trial. They negotiate, make someone say they did something to get out of a larger sentence. So if you think justice is coming out of courts when that's what happened to me on a traffic side, just think when it's blown up to high dollar values.
Heck yeah. We got 5 minutes. Quick question.
Yeah.
If someone were to bring information to light or speak out against someone or something, but they weren't seeking money, like if a woman came to light and was like, oh yeah, Trump did this and did that. What are you trying to get? Nothing. I don't want his money. He's disgusting. I wouldn't accept a dime from him. He's a piece of crap. And I just want people to know I don't want any financial benefit. Would you believe that person more than somebody who's like, and I'm suing him for $8 million and I want this and I want that?
I put it through the same system as if somebody wanted money, where if there's enough proof and you can provide it, we'll take somebody through the system. Because I mean, just because someone doesn't want money, they might just not like the person and want to injure them in a different way.
Yeah.
So the money would be, it wouldn't be part of the equation as far as I'm concerned. If they did it and you have proof and you get a jury, you did everything legit, then justice at the other end is as good a justice as you can get out of our system. You corrupt it and you leverage it and, shopping judges like this. I don't trust anybody. Like literally, I don't trust the judicial. I don't trust the legislator. I don't trust the executive. I don't trust anybody.
Trust no one.
Yeah. Good enough for today?
Yeah, we'll leave you with trust no one.
Trust no one. That is the title, BJ. All right. We'll catch you next time. What is today?
Yeah,
is today
Wednesday.
So we'll be back tomorrow with more shenanigans.
Thank you for listening to this show on Youngstown Studio. This is original Youngstown content. Feel free to share our videos and tell your friends about us. Don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel and follow us on Facebook. Thank you for your